All right, back live again. Man. Uh, yeah, let's see. This to mission group. All right, y'all. What's up? Man, Shelby here. Thank you for checking in on the live. I appreciate it. But as you can tell, today's election day, and I originally started recording this video earlier this morning while I was at my campsite. And in the previous video, I invited a lot of people to it. So I'm redoing it right now. But there are a lot of things to talk about when it comes to election day. You know, who's going to be the new leading authority when it comes to the governance of Allentown, PA specifically. I'm not sure who else is voting out here, but there's more, the bad outweighs the good. It really does. And I was saying this earlier in my video. Um, just a lot of the positive notes. Back in 24, last year in January, I think Biden came out here and pretty much gave kudos to Allentown, with the employment and income, you know, uh, beginning to improve in 24. The city's employment rate is down, which is good. If you don't believe me, you can check this up on some news articles like Keystone and whatnot. Not only that, investments and grants are coming in Allentown, PA. Yet and still, with the whole ICE situation, deporting immigrants and all that, the city here has adopted a pro-immigrant welcoming policy, which is cool. And a lot of residents out here in Allentown support that, and I do as well. This is supposed to be home of the free, land of the brave, things like that, uh, where people come to get a sense of freedom, to get away from whatever it is that they're going through in their home country. And with that being said, it's more or less like it's more or less saying that this city is not going to stand for people just going through torture wherever they currently lived at, anything like that, right? Now, this is why the bad outweighs the good. Now, just on those three positive keynotes I just spoke on, there's probably about five or six bad things I can speak on. For one, the fiscal stress here. The fiscal stress is absolutely facing a shortfall when it comes to budgets, delayed projects, uh, loss of federal funding or risk of loss of federal funding. Not only that, like for example, we had what damn near $1 million tree inventory grant, which is right now is in limbo, and I'm not sure if that has to deal with the tree that's placed here in Arts Park, but just that alone lets you know that the fiscal stress here alone is crazy, and which is why a lot of these other issues, such as gentrification, play a part in things like that, right? So obviously, the perception of inequality in development is here. The NIZ, the Neighborhood Improvement Zone, they brought investments to the downtown area, but the city here is saying that a lot of residents are not seeing the benefit of it. You still have gentrification and housing pressures which are on the rise. You know, and that right there is something that people should take into consideration due to, excuse me, due to a lot of people not seeing it being better. They still have issues in their own neighborhoods. Yeah, the downtown area is nice. The downtown area looks absolutely gorgeous out here. You will have a stroll through the city street at night and still feel safe. But what about the inner cities? Though these are topics that I've never heard be touched on. I've lived here, I've worked here for over a decade here in Allentown. And I still can't believe that they are opening more luxury apartment complexes than going into the inner cities, rehabbing some of these houses and putting people in them. And that's just one topic, or let alone having some of these landlords out here. And yeah, there's a lot of fucking slumlords out here that do not keep up to date on their properties, yo. I believe Joe Clark. Rest his soul. I really don't speak on the dead, but he was one of them. There were so many complaints to this man being a slumlord and not taking care of his properties. And to me, it's sad, And the visible neighborhood blight and property issues are more relevant. You have people on Reddit, Discord, on these online forums, and the locals are pointing to litter issues, neglected properties, like I was saying before, slumlords, absentee landlords, and the sense that the city leadership isn't combating these things effectively, you know, like I was saying earlier in the previous live video I was just in, the education pain points I want to touch on. The school district here, ASD, is absolutely horrible, and they're frustrated with changing curriculums all the time and then having inconsistent directives from the leadership. You know, yes, education is a business, you know, and at the end of the day, if you want your business to run smoothly, leadership has to start buckling down and focusing on what needs to be improved here. Is it really the students? Is it the teachers? Because I honestly don't believe it. I honestly believe it always starts in the home. How you pretty much, how can I put this? How you raise your kids, how you teach your kids, how you train your kids, how you educate your kids. That plays into a role when they start to go into the school system. But it's also on the teachers to start buckling down on how they need to get their stupid students to open up, to open their minds and things like that. Because leadership here in Allentown has some very inconsistent directives that they laid out not so long ago. They had a educational leader get locked up because he was supposedly on drugs, yo. While at an event with full of ASD students. It's crazy, yo. And then, just to get off of that, then you still have to deal with the contracts and governance delays, like I was saying before. City council delayed approval of contract related. This is a note that I have here. The city council delayed approval of a contract related to a new police station which puts about 9 million in federal ARPA funding at risk. This is from the Lehigh Valley News .com. And I didn't really get into that one. I don't give a fuck about the police out here. I have my own personal vendetta with the police out here. I do not respect them out here at all. They can, hey, you as a person, you may be a good person, but when it comes to your job, a lot of y'all motherfuckers need to just go ahead and start going back to the basics, sticking to the rules, quit being so lenient on certain people because you know them or you work with them and shit like that. That don't mean shit to me, bro. Like my main point in all this is really for, the community, local businesses, civics groups. Y'all need to acknowledge these pain points even more because these challenges that we face, they are openings when it comes to the governance and the well-being of the city here. I've been living here for a long time. I've been here over a decade, and I've been noticing all these big gaps between the administration promises and lived community experiences. There's a very big gap between all that. We have a mayor right now in office, not saying not to vote for him. I'm not telling you who to vote for, but we have a mayor right now in office who's pushing for homeless people to be evicted from the encampments that they are in, but yet and still not having viable solutions in place to rehouse and relocate these individuals. Me being one of them. For those who don't know, if you can't tell, I stay on the woods by choice. I don't want to be in the inner city. I find my peace out in the woods because for me, it's just, uh, it is. It really is. But if you have something to say, drop a comment. Everyone here has a lived experience within the community. I have my own personal experience. You have your own personal experience. And someone like you may have real value to offer the community out here. It's like seriously. Build trust, propose solutions. That's what I've done. I really have. But other than that, I think that's going to be the end of this live. I real have. Matter of fact, yeah. Let me look into this real quick. Let me see something real quick. Hmm. All right, so I got some key data here. And first, let me talk about the education and social equality. It seems here that students in the district are at a 91% economic disadvantage. State funding accounts for the Allentown School District, state funding accounts for 67% of their 2025-2026 budget revenue. Yeah, they're at an economic disadvantage, 91% at that. Let's see here. When it comes to public safety, the city recorded only 4 homicides last year, a record low since 1989. Violent crime is trending downward, and historical data shows that in earlier years, the chance of a person victimized by violent crime in Allentown was 1 in 347, based on older numbers, and property crime 1 in 56. When it comes to city budget and taxes, that's publicly documented. Everybody knows that. No increase, but it seems like, I believe not so long ago, the mayor did come out saying that he was going to raise property taxes. He raised property taxes, that means there's going to be more stuff for the schools, for the community, for nonprofits and things like that, which I kind of agree with. But trash collecting fees are going up. Residents will pay about $605 in 2025, up about $190 from last year. And not only that, the general fund budget summary, for example, revenue items earned income tax, real estate, current investment shows modest or flat growth, which is not good. So in situations like these, I would literally just go back, see what was working, and double down on that instead of sitting here trying to come up with new ideas to innovate 24/7. You know, it's for me being a consultant in marketing. For us, it's never about going out looking for new leads, looking for new clients, looking for new prospects. It's always about going back to what worked and doubling down on that. Similar with running ads on social media and things like that, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all that other TikTok and all that other stuff. It's pretty much the same thing. Always go back to what works. Obviously, they're not doing that here, but yeah, I'm not going to say it's bad, but the bad outweighs the good here in Allentown. But with that being said, that's going to be the end of this live. Catch you guys later. You might see me out walking around. You might catch me in Arts Park today. I'm always at Arts Park no matter what. Uh, yeah, deuces. It's your man Shelby. I'm out. Y'all be easy.